The keeper descends. Part 3 of 4. Marcus sat at that kitchen table until the tide chart told him he had 2 hours. Then he stood, folded the document, closed the ledger, and opened the hatch. The smell that came up was not rot. It was not sewage or mold or any of the things a rational person might expect from a sealed crawl space beneath an old coastal house. It smelled like the deep ocean. Not the beach, not the harbor brine, but the cold pressurized darkness of water that has never seen light. It was a smell that made the back of Marcus's throat close and his body tell him, very clearly and without ambiguity, to step backward. He did not step backward. He had a flashlight from the utility drawer, and he lowered himself through the hatch into the dark. The crawl space was wrong. Marcus had known, intellectually, that it could not be as large as a room. He had stood on this floor his entire childhood and understood the geometry of it. The house sat on a granite foundation 3 feet high at most, just enough for pipes and joists and nothing else. But when his feet touched the ground beneath the hatch, he did not crouch, he stood fully upright. The ceiling above him was well above his head. The flashlight beam showed stone walls on 3 sides. Not poured concrete, not wood, but dressed granite blocks fitted with a precision that matched no construction from the last 100 years. He turned the flashlight forward. The 4th wall was not a wall. It was a passage, narrow, cut through the raw granite of the coastal shelf, descending at a slight angle, and going deep. The air that moved through it was damp and tidal and constant. Marcus had brought the offered plate, because the condition had specified it, and because every other condition in that document had proven specific and accurate. The plate was from the kitchen cabinet. A deep ceramic bowl, the oldest one his mother owned, gray with a dark rim. He had filled it with the items listed in the ledger's appendix, which he had read carefully: twice salt, raw fish from the harbor market, and 3 drops of blood from the keeper's right hand. He had stood at the kitchen counter for a long time looking at the paring knife before he made the small cut. The blood had come easily, 3 dark drops falling into the salt. He had not let himself think about what he was doing. Now he carried the bowl with both hands and walked into the passage. It went further than it should have. The granite shelf under Harrow Point was not that deep. He walked for 4 minutes at a careful pace. He counted his steps, and the passage was still going down. The flashlight showed only stone, smooth with age and damp, and then the passage bent and the flashlight showed something else. Water, a subterranean chamber, roughly circular, the ceiling 10 feet above, the walls curved and fitted stone, and in the center of the floor a pool of black water 20 feet across. The tide fed it. He could see the slow pulse of it, rising and falling by inches with the rhythm he had heard through the kitchen floor. Marker stones were visible at the waterline, just as the document had described. The first one was barely an inch above the surface. Marcus walked to the edge of the pool. He knelt. He set the bowl at the threshold where the stone floor met the water, and he watched the surface of the pool. For 30 seconds, nothing moved. Then something rose. Not all the way. Not into the light, a mass in the dark water, vast and slow, a displacement that sent small waves against the marker stones. A shape that he could not resolve into anything his brain could categorize, too large for the pool to contain, and yet the pool did contain it, because the pool was a mouth and the mouth led somewhere else entirely. The bowl was gone. He did not see it taken. He looked down and it was there, and then there was a pulse from beneath the water, and when he looked up the bowl was gone, pulled under without a ripple. Then the thing spoke, not in sound, in his chest. In the part of him behind language, he felt it form in him the way a depth charge forms in open water. A pressure wave that arrived as understanding rather than words. Your family has kept faith. The arrangement holds. But one condition remains unfulfilled. Marcus stood very carefully. He kept his light on the water. What condition? He said aloud. His voice sounded very small in the stone chamber. The pressure came again. The fleet must feed me. Or the keeper must offer a name. The crew is gone, Marcus said. The 8 men, are they dead? The response hit him so hard he took a step back from the water's edge. He pressed his hand flat against the stone wall to keep from falling. Because it was not a simple answer. It was an image, vivid and sudden and complete, of 8 men standing knee-deep in the black water of this chamber, alive, their eyes open and filmed white, their mouths slightly parted, breathing with the rhythm of the tide. The same faces from the harbor. The same men whose names were in his mother's ledger. They were not dead, they were being held. Marcus looked at the pool for a long time. Then the understanding came again, patient and ancient, offer a name. One name, freely given, and the 8 come home. He climbed back through the passage without speaking. He came up through the hatch into the kitchen and stood in the early morning light with stone dust on his knees and the smell of the deep ocean in his clothes. He went to the kitchen table, sat down, and stared at his hands. One name, freely given, alive. His phone buzzed on the table, a text message from a number he didn't recognize. 6 words only's "I know what you were offered." And then a second message arriving 3 seconds later that made Marcus's blood go cold in his veins, because the second message was a name, his name, and it had been sent by his mother. The phone in Marcus's hand lit up with one final message, a photograph of the stone chamber, taken from the waterline, showing Marcus himself kneeling at the edge of the pool. Sent from his mother's number 3 years before she died. That's it for part 3. Follow Untold Lores for part 4. Like and subscribe for daily stories.